and Bin village lies tucked away at the foot of a large dike, where the gentle Day River flows like a soft green silk ribbon. Here, the 4 seasons drift across the rice fields, bringing with them the scent of fresh mud, the sound of roosters crowing at dawn, and the chorus of frogs in the evening. The villagers live by the rice, and even in death, they return to the earth of these fields. At the very end of the village stands a dilapidated thatched house, home to Mr. Nguyen Van Lam's family. Mr. Lam was born into a line of farmers spanning 3 generations. His grandfather passed away while harvesting in the fields, and his father was lost to a flood when he was just 14. His mother, her back bent long before her hair turned gray, carried rice to raise him and his brother. At 17, with no education and no money, only his calloused hands and a back already starting to stoop, Mr. Lam officially became the head of the family. He held a simple belief. As long as he worked hard, his family would not go hungry. Mr. Lamb's day begins long before the sun rises, while the mist still hangs low over the fields. Before the first rooster crows, he is already on his way, carrying his plow. His plot of land is small, just over an acre, but it is his entire world, his fortune. During the dry season, he toils under a scorching sun. In the rainy season, he wades through mud up to his knees. His feet are cracked, his hands are blistered, but he never misses a single day of work. The other villagers would often say, "Lam works like an ox." He would just smile, never offering a reply. At 20, he married Mai, the daughter of another poor family in the village. Their wedding was a simple affair, with just a few humble meals and sincere blessings. There were no gold rings, no lavish dowry. But Mai had gentle hands, kind eyes, and a heart as steady and dependable as the soil of An Bin village itself. They built a small thatched house together. On their first night as husband and wife, a heavy rain fell, and water leaked through the roof, soaking their mat. Mai just smiled and said, "The rain is good. It means the fields will have a good harvest." Mr. Lam looked at his wife, feeling a warmth that burned brighter than any straw fire. Life, however, was not always kind. A year of severe drought came. The rice plants withered and died in the fields, and their small granary stood empty. The couple spent their days searching the fields and riverbanks for wild vegetables to eat. One night, weakened by hunger, Mai silently turned her face to the wall to hide her tears. Mr. Lam lay awake the entire night, listening to her quiet sighs, his heart aching. The next morning, he set out to borrow rice from the other villagers. But everyone was poor. Finally, after hours of asking, he received a small sack of old rice in exchange for 3 full days of hired labor. That evening, Mai cooked a pot of thin porridge. They sat and ate in silence, the only sound being their spoons scraping the bottom of the pot. Outside, the wind howled across the dry, cracked fields, carrying the scent of thirsty earth. But fortune turned. The following year, the weather was kind. The rains came at the right time, the sun shone just enough, and the rice crop was abundant. It was a bountiful harvest. That same year, Mai gave birth to their first son, Nam. As Mr. Lam held his newborn child, his rough, work-worn hands trembled. He whispered to the tiny baby, "I will work my whole life so that you will never know hunger." The months and years passed. The children grew, but the fields remained the same size. Mr. Lam's days were a relentless cycle of labor. In the morning, he was in the fields, plowing and planting. At noon, he was carrying water and repairing the embankments. In the afternoon, he was harvesting and drying the rice. And in the evening, by the dim light of an oil lamp, he would weave baskets, mend fishing nets, or sharpen his hoe for the next day. Every single grain of rice that fed his family was a product of his sweat and toil. Over time, some people in the village began to prosper, building new houses and buying new things. Mr. Lam's family remained poor, but thanks to his unwavering efforts, they never lacked for food. Their little thatched house was always filled with the comforting smell of cooking rice. One night, a terrible storm hit the village. The wind howled like a wailing demon, and the rain lashed down, threatening to tear the thatched roof from their home. The river began to rise, threatening the dike and the precious rice fields. Without a second thought, Mr. Lamb rushed out into the storm. He spent the entire night in the cold, churning water, reinforcing the dike with his bare hands to protect the village's livelihood. By morning, the storm had passed, and the dike had held. Mr. Lamb collapsed at the edge of the field, exhausted. He ran a high fever for 3 days straight. Mai stayed by his side, weeping, fearing the worst. When he finally regained consciousness, the first thing he did was look towards the fields. Seeing they were safe, he managed a weak smile. "As long as the fields remain," he whispered, "there is life." His son, Nam, grew up surrounded by the earthy smell of straw and soil. The defining images of his childhood were the sight of his father's back, perpetually hunched over in the fields, and his mother sitting quietly by the cooking fire, her face illuminated by the flames. The sounds of his youth were the rhythmic clang of the hoe, the clucking of chickens, and the constant whisper of the wind through the rice stalks. When Nam was 10 years old, he asked his father a question that had been on his mind. "Father, why are we so poor?" Mr. Lamb stopped his work, gently stroking his son's head. He looked out at the fields and said, "We are poor because we work the land. But farming is honest work. It doesn't make people bad." Nam was a bright boy and did very well in school. His teacher told Mr. Lamb, "This boy is special. He should continue his studies." But for a family like theirs, higher education seemed like an impossible dream. Where would the money come from? After many sleepless nights, Mr. Lamb made a difficult decision. He sold his water buffalo, his most valuable possession and his partner in the fields, to pay for Nam's tuition. On the day Nam left the village for the city, Mr. Lamb stood at the edge of his rice field, watching his son walk away until he was just a small dot on the horizon. He didn't say a word, but his gaze held all the love and hope in the world. Years passed. Mr. Lamb aged quickly. The lines on his face deepened, like the furrows in his fields. His hands became cracked and gnarled, and his back bent lower and lower, resembling an old, worn-out sickle. But still, every single morning, he went out to the fields. It was the only life he knew. When Mr. Lamb was 55, his beloved Mai passed away. After the funeral, he sat by her grave for a long, long time, the silence of the fields enveloping him. As the sun began to set, he finally spoke, his voice raspy. "I still have the fields," he said, as if to reassure her. "Don't you worry." And with the first light of the next day, he was back in the field, his shadow stretching long across the land he had tended his entire life. Thank you for watching. If this story touched you, please consider liking and subscribing for more content that explores the depths of the human spirit. See you next time.